On this episode, find out what's been going on for the last 3 months on the Cumberland and Ohio Valley Railroad. Welcome back, everyone. I can't believe it's been 3 months since I've done my last vlog, but as I'm going to show you, I've been keeping quite busy during that period of time. And in fact, last time we were together, I had finished this area around to here. And since then, let me show you what I have completed. So now we're around to the other side of the ridge. The coal tipple is done. And all of the hard shell throughout the entire town of Graves is now in place and ready for scenery. So quite a bit of work. And I'm really excited to share with you all of the details and all of the new structures that have been added. So let me reposition the camera and we'll start taking a closer look. So if you remember from our last visit together, most of the rock castings in this area are by Woodland Scenics. The ones closest to the track on the bottom are hand carved, but pretty much all Woodland Scenics rock molds, and I pretty much had exhausted my supply of those without starting to get too much repetition. So as I move toward this area, the ones you see here are actually much larger rock molds. There's 3 of them that are made by Grand Central Gems, and the rest of them are from Bragdon Enterprises, which is the weathering powder people. And they're very, very nice castings. And despite the size, I still had to blend those together either by carving in some stratolines to connect them or just completely carving some raw plaster in between. But I use the same stretched polyfiber with coarse turf and various Woodland Scenics products to do the ground cover in between. And then at the top, to blend it in more with the road, I use static grass with a Knock Grassmaster to get a little different texture at the top. But you'll also notice that I've added power lines that were not there before. Trying to work from the back forward as much as possible so I don't damage things. Once things are done in the foreground, I hate to try to lean over them to reach in the back. So I went ahead and did all of the power lines, and there's transformers and guy wires as where appropriate. And I really am a strong believer in adding power lines to poles rather than just have them sitting bare. Adds a lot of realism. And this area right here really has become one of my very favorites. These little 7 company houses are laser kits from BTS. And building 7 of these, even though they're small, still a lot of work to put them together because all the windows and doors are all separate little laser cut pieces. So it took several weeks to build 7 of these. And the challenge was to fit them to the hillside. So there's a Sculpt-A-Mold base underneath them. And while it was still wet, I went ahead and covered it with the dirt and different ground covers, and then basically sunk the houses into the wet Sculptamold because they're all up on stilts and they needed to be of varying heights to fit the contours. And I think they turned out very well. And once they were in place, then I custom did each of the staircases for each house because they would obviously have different numbers of stairs. But it definitely looks like a little company town with the road going through there. And again, power lines, super trees with the knock leaf material, which I'm just completely sold on. The look of those leaves versus using ground foam on super trees, to me, is just, it's a night and day difference. I will point out one little detail if I can get a little bit closer on it. In between these first two houses, I built some bays of electrical panels, and you can kind of see it right at the bottom of the pole there. And to do those, I used some clear acrylic rod and then cut those into little nubs, put them on some strip styrene for the boxes, and basically based that on some prototype photos I found online of boxes set up in that type of configuration. And there's another one in between these last houses. You can see the pole in the back. There's one there too. So lots of little hidden gems to find. None of these things just really stand out on their own, but as a visitor starts looking deeper into the scene, they sort of come across these little things. Lots of stumps for cut down trees there as well. And then as we go around to this side, you'll see the truck dump for the mine and the trucks that I use. Let me move the tripod. We'll get a little closer to that so I can show you a little bit of the detail with it. So before I show you that truck dump up close, here's a better shot of those breaker boxes between the houses. And a little better detail on the poles there. And I'll just kind of scroll up the street. Typical dirt road. These are really nice little kits to build. I enjoyed these very much. And we come over to the truck dump. And this is totally scratch built. I based this on some photographs that I'd found online of West Virginia truck dumps. But it's really my own design. But it does have individual nut bolt washer castings where appropriate. And I had some trouble finding the dump trucks that I wanted, so I ended up getting these off of eBay. I think they're Boley, fairly inexpensive. And could they be the wrong era? Absolutely. They looked appropriate as far as the grill on the front and the lights, but I'm not too concerned if somebody says, that truck came out 5 years later than your era, that kind. I don't get hung up on all of that minutia personally. Long as they're weathered up and they look good in the photograph, then I'm pretty satisfied. So very inexpensive trucks, but some pan pastels really did the trick to weather them and age them. You see a couple of figures there. One trucker unloading and one standing waiting his turn in line to dump the load that he brought in. But I think it turned out very well. And the conveyor has an unusual construction method there. There's actually a Walthers plastic conveyor that came with one of their mines, I think the New River mine, that I used as a core because it was the right size and shape and length. And basically to match the rest of this kit, which is also from BTS, I overlaid it with scribed wood siding and then put the rolled roofing on the top to match the rest of the structure. And I think that that addition added so much to this kit. Of course, it's got the chute on the other side here that goes down to the dump house for the mine carts, and it's nice. But I think adding this to it just really increased the overall interest of the scene. All of the vents are also scratch built. Again, nut bolt washer castings on all of those. And you notice in the background, I added a lot of individual strip wood retaining walls because this was a fairly steep hill to work with. Of course, the backdrop here just adds immeasurably to the depth of the scene. This is probably one of the most photogenic areas right here I think I've ever worked on. But I didn't have a lot of depth for the mine, so I sort of stair-stepped these retaining walls, which I think add a lot of interest. There's also one that's behind the truck dump there to hold the wall back. But they continue behind the mine, and then as you get over to this side, they increase in height. And there is a light inside of this little dump house right there. I don't have it connected yet, but there is a light in there. And there was enough detail that I just left the front wall off because it seemed a shame to conceal all of that inside of the structure. And then as you get down to this end, there's actually a entrance to the mine. And it also has a light inside of it. There's a little interior wall that I added from just a flexible chooch timber retaining wall, just so there was some degree of interior detail. You don't see a lot of it because it's a pretty extreme angle that you see from the aisle here, so you don't get a lot of view into the shaft. But for photographs and stuff, I wanted to have at least some indication that there's some sort of interior to that. But the light, which is very dim, adds so much to that realism. And I've still got a little bit of detail to do. I've got some sets of coal miners from Preiser that I've been waiting on for almost 2 months now to get here from Europe. COVID just has everything so slowed down with the Postal Service. But there'll be some people and some more details in this area. But scenery-wise, it's pretty much finished. And the bridge in the foreground here was so close to that track with the ballast back here that I had to put a retaining wall in there too. And that's also a Chooch product. That's a flexible concrete wall that I've weathered. But it was necessary to get the clearance for the bridge to fit in there. But all of the bridges, the abutments, piers, all of this is assorted kits by Walthers. So we'll take a look down at that end in just a second. But let me give you one more little quick shot of the mine and the tunnels and the houses. This, I think, just really turned out very nice. I'm extremely pleased with it. And then when you connect it over here to the store, the church, and the other houses, it definitely has a West Virginia company town feel to it, for sure, which was what I was going for. So let me reposition the camera again, and we'll take a look at the areas that I'll be working on next. So the only other area that I've pretty much completed scenery-wise is this hill that basically not only serves as a entrance for the mine shaft, but also serves to separate these two industrial areas, the coal mine and the soon-to-be completed lumber mill. And all of the hard shell is in place, covered in Sculptamold, and ready for ground cover on the bottom. So that will actually be the next area I concentrate on. Will be finishing these brown areas from the wall there down to the other abutment on this end. And once those are covered and finished and the track is ballasted, then I can go ahead and permanently put in the bridge and pour the water and detail all of that and pretty much have this area complete. I'm hoping to have all of this done by the end of the year. And that would include building the lumber mill. Now, most of the lumber mill are just kits by Walthers and Pike Stuff. So, plastic kits go together pretty quickly. But I'm definitely going to detail them, weather them, in some cases recover them with different materials so they don't look like plastic, or at least that's the goal, is to take away the look of the plastic to the structures. So I think I can have all of that finished by the end of the year. Of course, a lot of that is because I'll have 17 days off for Christmas as a teacher, so that affords me a lot of free time to put in some pretty long hours. And really, that's why I've gotten to this point now, is I had 11 days for Thanksgiving, so that again gives me lots of hours to come and put in some serious time out here work-wise. So there's just one more area I want to take a quick look at, and I'm going to reposition the camera for it, and it's this little scene where this foam is. And let me show you what we're going to do in that area. So in this area, I'm adding a Craftsman kit that I've been waiting to build for a long time. It's one of my absolute favorites, and it's South River Model Works Whitney and Bent Furniture Company. I just absolutely love the look of this building. Now I'm going to have a different placement of all of the foundation pieces and retaining walls because the area that I have to work in is not quite the same. It won't have the trestle on the one side, obviously, because of the way my track comes in. But the building itself, the main structure, will pretty much be built by the per the directions. But I love that building. I think it will look really good here. One thing you'll notice, though, is the fascia does not match the contour of the foam, because when I cut it, I really didn't know yet what I was going to do specifically. So you'll notice right here there's a push pin, and that indicates the seam in the birch plywood fascia board. So it's a pretty short piece that I'm working with here, really about 3 feet or so. So I'm just going to end up taking that off and then recutting a new one to correctly fit the profile of the foam. And the foam, by the way, is removable. I'll glue the blue, the pink, the green together, and once it's carved correctly, I'll build the structure at the workbench. And it's made to just slide in right up against the track, and then it will be in permanently. But it just seemed like it'd be a lot easier to build that at the workbench. And then right beyond that, in this area right in here, there's going to be a depot, because I wanted to have a station stop for graves. And this is a little kit that I found on eBay. It's an actual C&O prototype station. Very famous kit, or very famous structure on the prototype C&O. But I've always liked the look of that build, and I know Tony Custer had something similar on his Allegheny Midland. But I love that sort of interlocking tower look on the top of the otherwise kind of plain station. But it's a small footprint, and it'll fit in quite well in that space. It's a little thin right in here, a little narrow, So what I'm going to end up doing when I recut this fascia is I'll let it just bend out probably to about this point, and then come in and fill in the gap with foam, and that'll give me a little more area for the building to fit in. But give me a little station stop for passenger trains that are coming through on that level. And it'll be right before you get into the huge wood trestle, which may or may not be the next thing I'll work on once I complete the town of Graves. It would be the next logical step since I'm sort of working in a eastward direction, but the mood may or may not strike once I get to that point, and I may skip over to the other side of the building to do something totally different. So time will tell on that one, but the plan is right now that everything other than this Craftsman kit, all of the lumber mill and all of the scenery, which includes, by the way, the water. Let me get back out there. All of this I hope to have done by the end of the year. I will try my best not to let it go so long between installments as I have this time. But, you know, it was one of those things where the more I got done, the better it looked. And I would think, you know, gosh, if I just wait one more week, then it'll really look spectacular. And before you know it, 3 months had elapsed. So, but I've enjoyed bringing the layout to your attention today. I hope you enjoyed your visit. And if so, and you haven't done already, please subscribe to the channel. Click that notification bell so you can be informed when I upload new content. And I would appreciate a thumbs up if you enjoyed your visit today. So until next time, I will see you guys. Please stay well, stay safe. And I will say Merry Christmas as well. And we'll see you next time on the Cumberland and Ohio Valley Railroad. Take care, guys.